If you are able to find that door, you need to find that door and get out of that negative relationship if you're in one. We do live in a society, Clyde, where a lot of people still stay stuck in bad, negative relationships.
Well,
and if you need to get out, get out. But don't call the police and ask them to fix your mess if you're in something negative. Only call them if it's a life or death situation. No excuse.
It's funny because I'm very happy to have in my life a fiance that has kind of
And
changed my world.
congratulations, Clyde.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's changed my world a lot in a lot of things. I mean, I was sick a couple nights ago, and I was afraid I had to go to the hospital again because of some past health problems I had. And she told me, she says, you should be dying on the floor before I call an ambulance for you. And I thought, you know, okay, whatever. And but now I'm beginning to realize
It
what
costs a lot of money.
Well, and I'm beginning to realize what she means, because you take a look at this case, and it was phoned in by a relative. And, you know, you call the police with good intentions, hoping they're there to come in and save your family. When in reality, all they're thinking is that they are, you know, you put a guy there suicidal, and they're going to go, I'm in danger, I'm going to shoot at that person if I feel I'm in danger. You know, you got to work things out on your own.
Let's talk about the training.
You can't call Big Brother to come in, because Big Brother, they're being trained to do other things. I mean, it used to be back in the 19...
It's not one shot. It's unloading your clip.
Well,
that's why you always hear about 6 shots, 7 shots. That's the training. It's not one shot in one vulnerable position. It's not the leg. It's lethal. Boom, 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 boom.
Always remember this. In the 1970s, we had SWAT teams. The SWAT teams were taken and called out by police officers whenever there was some sort of a hostage crisis, or whenever there was a problem with a drug dealer or someone that was going to basically be dangerous with a gun. CERT teams now are being called out for domestic disputes. And why? I mean, it used to be that a deputy sheriff and a couple other men could probably talk down a domestic situation. Or if there was a domestic fight that needed to be looked into, they'd come in and they would try to talk reason, or they would take the person who was involved in the domestic dispute to jail. Now it's different. We have a domestic situation with Aaron Campbell, who was suicidal. He was distraught over the death of his brother.
Same day his brother died.
Yeah, and he was killed the same day his brother died. The tragedy here is that somebody thought that if they were to call the police, that the police would help. The police didn't help. The police actually caused a much greater loss and tragedy. Remember this. Use this as an example. Okay. If you can deal with the problem and don't call the police whenever, I mean, family problems, deal with them on your own. And then call in counselors. There are other crisis lines to call. Police officers, they are here to help. But, you know, once the CERT team's called out, I have a friend of mine who told me that he was lucky. He once had a problem that he had to deal with, and the CERT team showed up, and he lived through it. Yeah. But most of the time, I mean, they're calling CERT teams out more now than they ever did, and it's just insane.
It's certainly an extension of the nanny state. We need to call a government agency to come in and do an intervention. Look, there can be a positive in every negative. There can. And I think there are many people that have an interest in the law of attraction, for example, that watch this show. So let's think about this. How can we turn this into a positive to bring some of us together? And here's some of my thoughts, Clyde. To reach out to those in the African-American community and let them know this is not a race issue, but it is an issue of police brutality that extends to all the races, other states, other cities. This is not just a local issue. This is, in fact, in a way, more than a national issue. The police state is global, because there is a difference, as you point out Sunday, between police brutality and the police state.
Well, and I think that another thing that we're missing is, and in fact, I just did a story on some smash and grab crimes that are going on near the University of Portland. And one of the things I found interesting is that in the area, it's just where I live. You know, I live near Harvard Street. They actually have a sign there that says Neighborhood Watch. No. I mean, if there's smash and grabs going on and you have a sign that says there's a Neighborhood Watch, where's the neighborhood? The neighborhood's not watching. The neighborhood is not participating.
Right.
The neighborhood is basically saying, leave that to the police. The neighborhood, and I'm not saying tell on your neighbor, but what I'm saying is that your neighbor's welfare is your neighborhood welfare.
We should know our neighbors. And you know what else I started thinking, Clyde? If your neighbors don't want to know you, because most of mine are completely neurotic and appear to be paranoid whenever I tend to walk down the street, right. I'm thinking to myself, you know, this isn't an environment that I like. I want to move somewhere else on the east side where I'm around neighbors that actually make eye contact once in a while and don't act like they're terrified of their own shadow. And so it's the same thing with a relationship or a neighborhood. If you feel there's a change you need to make, an abusive one, maybe you're in an abusive relationship with a boss, for example, maybe you should look on finding the door. Or if it's a bad neighborhood and stuff's going on, maybe you should find where there is a better place where you can be because you know what the future holds. What do you think is going to hold in the future, Clyde? Do you think this economy is even going to get better? Because if it doesn't get better, I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of smash and grabs going on.
Well, what we need to understand.
And a lot of people run into grocery stores grabbing stuff and running.
My fortunate thing is that I have lived in now 2 places in Portland that have some of the best community. I lived in Southwest. We found a community center with a place called the Ross Island Grocery, which is a great place.
That's a really unique spot there.
Yeah, it's a unique area there.
What was that off of?
It's on Corbett.
Corbett, yeah.
Southwest Corbett. I lived in that neighborhood for 10 years, and we had a community center with the Ross Island Grocery. Jennifer Daniluk has done a remarkable job in that area, keeping it as a community center. In fact, the people in the Corbett Terwilliger district actually meet there for meetings for the community and how to make the community work. They have certain get-togethers at the parks there near the waterfront. It's a very, very, very great community and neighborhood. I now live in the Kenton area, which is another neighborhood that's regrowing and rebuilding. A lot of and I try to find places there that I can turn into community centers where I can talk with people in the community. And I'll tell you what, there's a place there called Poshines, which is a great community center. There are people there from all colors and all backgrounds and all. And
I heard a rumor somewhere that Adams lives in your neighborhood. Is that true?
Who?
Adams?
Oh yeah, Mayor Adams.
Does he ever say hi to you?
I see him occasionally, but I don't.
Just kind of looks
He
away.
kind of looks at me like, oh, it's Clyde Lewis. Get away. But I just want to tell you though that in your community, there are places that can be turned into community centers. Just show up. If you love your community enough, get to know the people that come into those places. I mean, there are regulars. I mean, like I say, I go into Poshines now and I hang out there. It's a great place to eat, great people to talk with. And also there's another place called Posey's. It's just over across the way, which these places are community places. They look after children. They have little get-togethers. There's a guy by the name of Mr. Ben who plays guitar and sings to the kids and storytelling for the children. I mean, these are community centers where community is really reaching out to the people and you get to know your neighbors and realize that we're all in this together. If you become one of those people that just wants to hide in the shadows and you don't want to be involved with your community and you fall for these divisive things. I mean, the internet does this to you. Other things isolate you. Get to know people. Get to know what they're really feeling. Don't put all your faith in a talk show host like me or Lars or anyone else out there. I mean, Lars is great for the community. I'm great for the community. There are several other people out there doing talk shows that are great for the community, but we're not gods, okay? We don't have all the solutions,
right.
But we like to observe and talk. And
what he's saying also counts for very popular alternative talk show hosts on the web.
Yeah, and that's true. And there are a lot of popular alternative talk show hosts on the web, such as Alex. I also recommend someone like James Evan Pilato of MediaMonarchy.com. I'm heard on the net on ZeroPointRadio.com. And you can listen to my shows all the time. What I'm really trying to do is
warn you that there are some big-time alternative talk show hosts that aren't directing their listeners in the most appropriate way without mentioning names. And some of you already know what I'm talking about. So we're also trying to keep things accountable, even within our so-called research community.
It's hard.
It's hard to keep things accountable and honest and transparent.
One of the biggest, I guess you could say, one of the biggest problems when you're at war, when there's a war going on, war on terror, there are casualties, human casualties, but one of the biggest casualties we deal with is the truth. You don't get it during wartime. You get propaganda, you get COINTELPRO, you get people with agendas, you get people wanting to scare you, you get people
make a lot of money off of what's going on.
Yeah, they want to make money off fear. And I mean, and it's hard for people who honestly want to look out. I mean, I call myself a weatherman. I see a storm approach, I predict it. If the storm doesn't come, it either comes eventually or we get a little sprinkle or whatever. And that's the way I look at it. We're weathermen, we're frontmen, we talk about these things.
Watchmen at the door.
Watchmen at the door, trying to tell you, we're hoping we're not crying wolf. We're hoping that we'll be able to get the word out, and we're doing it because we care. Something in us tells us it's important for us to do this because it's in our blood, it's in our system. We want to have our fingers placed directly on the heartbeat, on the zeitgeist, to understand the pulse of what's going on in the community. And we do it without agenda, and we hope that a lot of people do it without agenda. But remember, agendas go away. They're like fashion. They're as different as the shirt you put on every day.
At least you and I are open about our agenda to wake people up and get them to start questioning their reality.
Well, my situation is yes. I want you to question your reality. I want you to take it apart, deconstruct it, and then try to put it back together again. If it still fits the same way you had it before, you got a story. And a lot of people do it in think tanks. A lot of people do it. It's called what do you call Socrates did it.